One thing you hear about Magic quite often is how people keep quitting it at times and then keep coming back when the game is something that they enjoy playing again. This phenomenon really perplexes me, and that's for a few reasons. But most importantly is because of how unique it is in its scale. Never do you see the quantity of players doing this and the amount of times they do that. It's like an addiction. Although, not so bad, actually. No, sometimes worse, depending on your format. So, what brings people back into Magic? What brings them back, according to the returning players, is that they hear that the new sets are fun to play, so they get back into Standard. I heard this quite often with the people I played against when I was playing Paper Magic. And it was quite true. They quit like multiple times, several times, and then kept coming back when the game improved. I often asked them what made them return and what made the game fun for them again. Now, this is by no means like a statistical analysis, and the sample size that I have is quite minimal, at most maybe a few dozen people, but it's just the amount of variables are so small. I think we might be close to getting an objective answer, but the purpose of this video is a bit more subjective. But the most common answers were the deck interactions, or like fun to play decks, the diversity of the meta, barriers of entry, and the big cards that do big things but are not overpowered. Like, as soon as it becomes overpowered, the people who like those big cards that do big things tend to not play them because it like no longer feels like playing Magic. The amount of viable cards to play in competitive also tends to be a quite a big answer. The cascade effect of the previous factors bringing their friends in, and so they decided to get back as well. This made me think. Is there a way we can determine, at least subjectively, what brings people back and what moves them away from the game? Let's look at these factors a bit more in detail and see how the current standard after the most recent ban matches these, and perhaps answer why Magic has been waning in Thrones of Eldraine, and see what the future may hold with these subjective criteria in mind. Especially the next month is going to be quite interesting for this after the ban of those big cards. This week we're going to cover the deck interactions and then talk about the other factors next week, just to make it a bit more digestible. So, deck interactions. Some decks are just very satisfying to pilot. Being able to pull off that crazy combo, creating a completely degenerate strategy with a bunch of cheap creatures or enchantments that just dominate the board all of a sudden. Dance of the Mans comes to mind. What else? Opalescence, things of that sort. These things make you feel like you are a mastermind or a wizard, and that, if you will, that you can pull these things off. And at its core gameplay loop, this makes Magic fun. It does not even require the other player to do anything. It just plays itself, and just at its core, being able to, enjoy your deck every time is quite a beneficial thing for the game, I think. Now, you can argue there's no interaction and all, but that's just not the case, and we're gonna come to that. The current example of that, I would say, is Rakdos Sacrifice, that at times feels like a tier 2 deck, but I quite enjoyed them best of 1. I have not seen a deck that just literally plays itself so well. And while may not be doing a ton of damage right off the bat like Mono Red, but as soon as you built it up with a few of its engine pieces, it's a sight to behold. And it simply never gets old. The engine piece that I'm talking about, like Mayhem Devil, the Cat, the Oven, or the Priest of the Old Gods, things of that sort. Similarly, Golgari Adventures is very much like that. You just keep gaining value, and it's very satisfying to draw that extra card. Or Sultai Food, very similarly. The Trail of Crumbs just bringing you the pre-selected cards. Quite good. So there are just so many interactions that are not too complicated. Mind you, that just built up and these are counterable. And so many interactions that are not complicated, mind you, that just build up. However, these are not uncounterable, and you can win the game through your skill. Now, the counterability is very important because then you do not feel like you won just because you're playing some overpowered cards, but because of your own skill. Are these the most complex interactions in Magic history? No, but they are complex multi-step interactions with multiple meaningful decisions that really scratch that strategy itch. For the people who like solving puzzles, this is the solution to the puzzle, and it's a constant puzzle that you're like, okay, do I start running my engine a little slowly with a bit of draw engine, or should I start doing damage? All of these things are always like the big questions and the puzzle to be solved, so it really scratches that puzzle itch as well. And after banning of Oko and the two other cards, we see these returning, and hopefully Theros Beyond Dead will only enhance these interactions in late January. And the rest of the topics we are going to cover next week, so join us next time and we'll see you then.